Hello everyone, welcome here to the book show. I'm James, books like no other. And it's fascinating to me how certain terms and terminology just always keeps popping up through the ages. And one of them is the fifth column, the vyfde kolom. Now, as it happens, is I wrote a book called Codename Oath 19. And in Codename Oath 19, I actually discuss what is meant with the fifth column and where does it come from. Because there's a South African connection which very few people know about these days anymore. And so for me, when I write books, it's important to bring out these little golden nuggets, I suppose, of history, especially military history, and just put them somewhere so that somewhere somebody might read it and remember it and bring honor to the people who were originally involved. And it's also repeated in another book which Rebecca and myself wrote called When Does It End? Now, When Does It End is also part of a series of books. There's another one called Where Does It End? And then came When Does It End? And there will also be a book called Why Does It End? Which I'll probably write this year if I feel like it and I have time. It's a weird thing about writing books is that the book writes itself in your head long, long before you start typing. And by the time that you start typing, the book is normally written already. Not word for word, of course, it does come flow through you as you go along, but you know the basics. The funny thing, the artists, the singers, the people who lyrics, those type of people, composers, they say the same thing. I once heard Neil Diamond, that famous singer, he once said that that song of his famous Sweet Caroline, as well as, a few of them, I said, um, a lot of them he said was actually in his head. The tune was in his head before you would put words to it. Now, it's the same with writing a book. So the book is very, very long before you actually type it. Because I suppose you can then say that an author is born. I don't think so. I think any idiot can write a book. It's not hard. It's not hard and it's not difficult. You just need to sit in your ass and write. And anyway, in these two books, we talk about the fifth column. Now, where this comes from originally was the Spanish Civil War. Now, you will remember, or I don't know, some people probably will not, but before the Second World War, there was a Spanish Civil War, and it was a brutal affair. And basically, it's remembered today for two things which I can think about. One is, of course, the bombing of Ghazni, however you say that word, which I also discuss in my books, because this is often used by historians and people to point out it's a bombing of an open city, blah, 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 and it was so horrible, blah, blah, blah. You know what? If you read the police reports on it and you look at the reports of the time, there was nothing horrible about it. In fact, I think less than 35 people died in it. Now, of course, it's unfortunate. If I say less, don't think I don't have sympathy for those who died. It's very regretful. But if you think about it, this attack of the US, the second beast of the Bible, on Venezuela the other day, just a few days ago, I understand more than 100 people died in their so-called successful raid to snatch a sitting president. So illegal under any law you can mention, but it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's the fascism coming out in the second beast, and you will definitely see a lot more of it. And if you don't know, well, what I'm talking about, go and look at the video when I talk about the Venezuela attack and what I think of it, and I don't rate it as particularly successful either. I mean, Trump and the rest can go and think we were greatest and the best in the world. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Go and try that against a proper country where you didn't bribe. And they lied, of course. Said that there was no injuries, nothing, no injuries to us. When we found out 7 of you in hospital. Why are we there? shooting wounds. Oh, gunshots. Where's the firefight? Yeah. Oh, fascinating. And shrapnel wounds. You know, when they murdered Soleimani, also on a Trump, they came up with the same shite, same excuses for retaliation by Iran. Oh, there's no injuries whatsoever. And we had to find out there's 100 US service people actually had to be flown somewhere to be treated for whatever injuries they suffered, head wounds or something, or perhaps just being scared. I don't know. Whatever. We really live in a time where people lie a lot. And when you go back to the Spanish Civil War, there's of course two sides of it. So Gersny was the one they were known for. Then the other one is this thing with Fifth Column. And I suppose from an espionage viewpoint, that is where Kim Philby, the great spy, the great Soviet mole in MI6, that's where he actually came to the fore, because he was working there as a correspondent. And by that time, he was already recruited for Soviet intelligence, and he would send his reports in to a certain address. And then later he found out that address was actually the Soviet embassy somewhere. So they didn't really take that many precautions at that stage with him. But somehow, of course, when vetting and the clearances came for him to join MI6, this was completely missed. Fascinating how lax we were then and now. You know, they don't even do any vetting these days. If you want to join MI6 or MI5 or CIA or whatever, these useless Western three-letter agencies, they don't do vetting. The vetting they do, they can't ask you if you're gay, because that's against your rights. You can be gay if you want to be, which of course you can. But the fact of the matter is, if you're gay in a place like Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, you might get into trouble. You might be seriously blackmailed, or something might happen to your partner. That's why you should ask these questions. No problem. You want to be, it's against the Bible, but who cares? That's between you and God. I'm talking strictly now from an intelligence viewpoint. You should be vetted, end of story. But Philby and the rest of them were really not vetted, and so they got through the system, and yeah, we know the results. We absolutely know the results, don't we? And then of course there's this thing, the Fifth Column. So basically what happened is you had two sides, people were fighting against each other. It was a dreadful war. There were really a lot of things happening. It's also where the Luftwaffe who actually got some combat training, which stood them to good. When 1940 came in the Second World War and the Blitzkrieg, and so they had combat-ready pilots, and there is a difference between it. But anyway, also in those days, it was the Soviet Union and the Comintern going on, the Communist International, also known as the Third International, and that was really putting the fear of God into the Western so-called democracies. And they started seeing fifth columns everywhere. In other words, it's people who work behind you, who's working you from behind inside your own country. I suppose in a certain way you can look at Antifa today in the US as being a fifth column. And it will definitely be like that from a Republican conservative viewpoint. At the same time, if you take Iran right now as we speak today in early January, or 10th or 11th of January today, 11th of January 2026. There's a lot of riots apparently going on in Iran, all paid for by the CIA and Mossad. And of course, like with any country in the world, there will be a lot of people who's not happy with what they see, even in my own country, South Africa. There's more riots now than there used to be during apartheid. But that doesn't say that a few thousand youths or people who's angry with the government is going to topple a government of dozens of millions of people. No, it's not. And we know for a fact that many of the videos coming out of Iran now, very, very strange. They're all artificially intelligence modified. Many of them, most of them actually, making it look very much worse than what it is. And suddenly you have a Shah there, a son of a Shah, and he's going to now get involved again. He's going to be the great leader of. That guy will never take over in Iran in our lifetime or his lifetime. Perhaps I'm wrong, who knows? Perhaps you can laugh at me one day. But it's just bullshit to try and weaken what they call the regime, and they of course call America the Great Satan, which we're wrong. It's the second beast. It's not the Great Satan from a Christian viewpoint. Also, a funny thing about Iran, if you don't know this, Iran is a Shia Muslim country, mostly, which means they don't like ISIS, they don't like Al-Qaeda. In fact, they kill them wherever they can. So we are a natural ally of the US and the West against these Muslim jihadi terrorists who was killing and murdering and chopping heads off of Westerners and Christians. They were natural allies, Iran that is. And yet you see in this world they actually were utter enemy of the West, according to the West. And those was actually sponsoring them, that is Saudi, a few other countries as well, Saudi Arabia, sponsoring terrorism, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, and assisting them. Now they were a great mate of the West. Now you try and explain that to me, because that's one of the reasons why I started writing these books, because what we know to be facts and what you know to be facts from hearing the Western propaganda and lies is two different things. Really think about it as capitalism, Catholics against Protestantism. They don't sit at the same fire. They never will. There were wars between them. The wars are still going on, by the way. The Protestants has been lax. They don't really realize there's wars going on. Read Oath of Evil, the war on Protestantism, and wake up. By which I don't mean to say that all Catholics are evil people. Not saying that. I'm talking about a system, which is, of course, the first beast of the Bible, getting its power from the dragon. And that beast has then got a mortal wound. In 1798 already, the power went over to the second beast, the US of A. You don't believe me? Read Oath of Evil, or go and read the books of Daniel and Revelations, and you will find it there. Not me saying so straight from the Bible. Whether you like it or you don't like it, I couldn't care less. That's the way it is. And if you look what's happening today, it is very easy to see how this US, the country we once looked up to, now it is changing into this fascist second beast, which is going to cause so much trouble before the end times. And we're heading there now very, very rapidly. I believe it's just last week, after the attack on Venezuela, which is illegal under any law you can mention to me, they withdrew from 161 UN-based type of organizations and committees and whatever. So they're going for broke. They're going for broke, and they're going to flex their muscles until the Third World War starts. So there you go. It's also going to crash the dollar. Don't say to me you didn't know about it. I warned you. But that's the way it is of life where we live. In the 1930s, times were hard as well. Times were tough. The Great Depression was going on. It was after the First World War. There were no happy times. War clouds were again on the horizon, exactly as predicted by Albert Pike, that great Satanist, occultist, in his book, Morals and Dogma. He said there'll be a First World War, a second one, and a third one, which we're waiting for. I'm not going to repeat this, guys. I spoke about it in other videos and in many of my books. But anyway, this word, fifth column, was first used by a guy called Emilio Mola, which is obviously Spanish, and he was a nationalist general, a fascist, part of General Franco's army. And in 1936, oh, that's long ago, my dad was born in 1936, may he rest in peace. He had a news briefing, and they had these columns approaching Madrid, obviously to try and take the city, which of course they did. And he said he had 4 columns of troops approaching. And then he said, and this is where this come from, he said he had another column, he had a 5th column inside the city. And by that he meant those who are already inside, and they would assist those approaching. In other words, they would acting behind enemy lines, and they would be causing trouble, and they make havoc there. And you know how it is. I mean, you're trying to fight the enemy here, but with someone trying to kill you from inside, man. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to have a fifth column somewhere. And of course, whether true or not, or how far it was true, we don't know. Obviously, we had sympathizers there inside, but it caused havoc because the defenders then started looking behind them instead of looking forward, which was, of course, also one of those things which were intended. It's all part of PSYOPs as well to do that. By the way, we did write a book on PSYOPs. It's a really good book to read. I'll flash it here for you. I don't want to go into it now. One of the codename books where we actually look at PSYOP operations and how what's used in war and how effective it is. And funny enough, all the great generals, all of them, really like PSYOPs. And why do they do that? Because they care about their men. And the attitude is, well, you know what? If we can save even one or two of our men by having the enemy surrender, then let us rather do that. Let's get them to surrender. It's codename Annika, by the way. It's a book it's called. Now, Ernest Hemingway, the author, he was also there in the Spanish Civil War as a war correspondent, and he obviously knew about this word, this fifth column. So in 1938, he wrote a play, which is called The Fifth Column. It is set inside Madrid. And when the Second World War broke out, of course, this word fifth column then came all the way. Everybody started using it again. But what is fascinating, because we look for patterns, and I mention it here, is that the victorious nations never really bothered using it. These were ones who got defeated, like the Dutch and the Belgians and England. Well, England was defeated in the beginning all the way until the cousins came and rescued them. Oh, the Empire, yeah, the Empire troops, yeah, those, you know, when you were standing alone in 1940, forgetting about 100 British Empire countries standing with you, yeah. You know, every time you say that, you're actually urinating on the dead of Australians, New Zealanders, South Africans, Rhodesians, Jamaicans, Indians. Every time you say you were alone, you're actually urinating on the graves of those people. That's why I react so badly to it, because you were never alone. Stop talking shite. But, you know, England was alone. Oh, shame, she's toch. Yeah, anyway, let's see if you're alone also in the Third World War, but you won't be. Also, look at that episode I made. It's from another book, codename Caribbean, which is about maritime terrorism, counter-terrorism. Go and look at the lack of war casualties on the British side, US side as well, but especially the Brits. They lost fewer men during 6 years in World War II than France lost in those 6 weeks of fighting with the Blitzkrieg. So France lost in 6 weeks more men than you lost in 6 years. Yeah, explain that to me. Come, Pommy, explain that to me. You cannot. The only way we can explain that is you were not fighting. You were hiding behind the rest of the Commonwealth and British Empire troops, and then later, of course, Canada and Canada was part of the empire too. Still is actually. And the US, yeah. You know, when you ran away from Dunkirk and you went back to France in 1944, 4 years after Dunkirk, there were about 38 or 48, I can't remember, I always get confused, Americans and Canadians for every single British British soldier. But anyway, so the fifth column certainly had an effect, there's no doubt about it, because there was a lot of disasters in 1940. But what's interesting here is that it was an English journalist, but he was actually born in South Africa in Ishawe. I'll give his name to you just now. We made this column, the slogan, fifth column, we made this famous because he started writing about it. It's a guy called John Langdon Davies. As I said, born in South Africa, born in Ishawe, even though he considered himself to be English. And he started using that term when he was sending his reports through to the newspapers. And the New York Times then jumped onto the bandwagon as well. The New York Times is really, I don't know why people see so much in the New York Times. I mean, it seems to me that whenever you do a quote anywhere, you have to quote the New York Times. Well, if you're a leftist liberal idiot these days, of course you will believe what they say. But in those days, the New York Times were really a bit better than now. They were really more in the middle. They ought to be as newspapers. And so that catchphrase then became quite famous. And we also had some editorial cartoons on the subject, making these fifth column people look like real spies, I suppose, hanging there, looking behind the curtain, and the normal nonsense. So it's all about propaganda. That's all it is. It's nothing else. I mean, that's where it comes from. But it's still being used today. And whenever you hear that word fifth column, especially if it is used by a nation who's on a threat or whatever, you need to actually take note of it and think back on how it was used before. Because in 1940, June of 1940, now remember this is Blitzkrieg time. Suddenly, Life magazine came out and had a whole bunch of pictures they took from just people in the war area. And they started calling them all signs of the Nazi fifth column everywhere. These people had F all to do with the Nazis or the fifth column. But this is again, it's propaganda and it's sensationalist. So Life magazine went and they started spreading this once again. And they called it a national phenomenon. And later they called it the first spasm of fear engendered by the success of the fifth columns in the less fortunate countries. Besides being an author, I'm also used to be an attorney, so I know about playing with words. Really know exactly how to say certain things so you can read between the lines. And journalists are very, very good at that. That's why you never talk to them, you never assist them, and you never help them. And to treat them like a scum of earth, like a Jesuit. It's the same thing. If a guy's from a Society of Jesus, say Jesus sarcastically because with Jesus they serve ain't Jesus. Of a Bible, it's another Jesus. Yeah, no, it's one they made up. Probably that choir leader. That guy called what is he? That fallen angel. Satan. Lucifer. Him. Yeah, that's where Jesus. Just look at the oath. You think this is shocking? Go and read Oath of Evil. Where do you think the name of that book comes from? Oath of Evil. Go and look at the Jesuit oath. Yeah. Go and see it. It'll be interesting. So anyway, to make a long story short, there's another guy called Walter Lippmann. He was also a columnist, journalist, and he started speaking of the fifth column on the coast. This is after Pearl Harbor. Now, with Pearl Harbor, you need to understand Oscar Popov. You need to understand the word tricycle. If you don't know what I mean, is you have to read my books or listen to the talks I've given. It was a triple spy. He warned West America, Britain. He warned them about the coming attack on Pearl Harbor. And the Brits actually believed him. And so they sent him to the FBI to inform them. They couldn't give a shite because they wanted the attack. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a Satanist. Yeah, you have 53-degree Freemason. You know that? Yeah. What about Winston Churchill? Yeah, him too. Go and look at his video. What about Biden? Joe Biden. Yeah, within 3 days of leaving, not being president anymore, suddenly he pops out as a 53-degree Freemason. Are we surprised? Did you see Donald Trump kneeling there with his wife in a Catholic church? Yeah, during the riots in his first term. Did you see that picture? I'll put it for you here. Yeah, interesting. Listen to me. You don't reach 53 degree in Freemasonries without knowing what happened. You know what they do during that initiation ceremony? Huh? Do you know? Go and find out. There's lots of videos on it. Yeah, they actually joke and they insult the resurrection of Jesus. That's what they do. Yeah, it's evil. It's evil. Now you may say to me, "Ah, not everybody." Yeah, of course not everybody. Of course not everybody. But when you reach 53 degree, yeah, where does the box actually stop, mate? Tell me. I would like to know. So anyway, after this attack on by Pearl Harbor by the Imperial Japanese Navy, which they were praying for and they really wanted, that's the US. This Walter Lippmann, he started writing, as I said, the fifth column on the coast. And the result of this was, of course, that every Japanese, American, women, men, children, all they were rounded up like animals and put into concentration camps. Okay, it wasn't camps where they died by the hordes like in the Boer War. Thank you, British Army. Don't think we forgot about that. We don't forget about concentration camps victims of the Second Anglo-Boer War. No, we know about it. Then, of course, the ones in Germany, which also around about this time were going full blast, murdering not only Jews, by the way. And yeah, they were all around it up. Why? Fifth column story. Yeah. Because you look like a Japanese, perhaps you were Japanese once. Therefore, you're the enemy. Therefore, we're going to lock you up. Of course, I had to, I think, apologize for it. I think it was Ronald Reagan's era where they apologized, but I might be wrong. Now, yeah, the same type of argument came out after 9/11, by the way. It's just amazing how these things always repeat. Always repeats. And it's always against a minority. If you find that out, it's always against a minority. Anyway, so the pattern is clear. Whenever there's a military disaster somewhere, it's not just the military's fault, it's also the stab in the back or the fifth column from behind. And that's what it is, and that's where it comes from, and that's how it's going to be. Anyway, so remember the name Langdon Davies, born in Ishawe. This is the guy who made the fifth column famous. We hear it again, perhaps you will know where it comes from. If you want to know more, read When Does It End? We go into great detail there. We also touch on it in Codename Annika, as well as Codename Oath 19. So that's it. God bless. Bye-bye.